thank you so very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. With that, I will open the hearing on, I believe it was 1018. I have so many windows open. I will open the hearing on House Bill, is it 1018? Yes, thank you very much. And we do have a staff report. Would you please go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee members. I'm Cassie Jones, counsel to the committee. House Bill 1018 concerns voter education cards. As background, the State Parks and Recreation Commission has established and implemented as required by law a program to provide required voting safety education. The program must include minimum standards of voting safety education accomplishment, minimum standards for voting safety course of instruction and examination, accreditation of voting safety courses, and development of an equivalency exam that can be taken as an alternative to a voting safety course. In order to operate a motor-driven voter vessel of 15 horsepower or greater, a person must be at least 12 years old and either possess a Washington voter education card or be accompanied by and under the supervision of a person at least 16 years old who has a voter safety education card. Certain individuals are not required to have a voter education card, and those categories of individuals are listed in your bill analysis and include individuals born before January 1st of 1955. To obtain a voter education card, a voter must provide a certificate of accomplishment issued by a voting educator for taking and passing the accredited safety course, pass an equivalency exam, or provide proof of completion of a course that meets the standards adopted by the Commission. Failure to possess a voter education card as required by law is an infraction that's punishable by a fine, but that fine must be waived if the voter obtains a card within 60 days. Under House Bill 1018, operators of human-powered boats and vessels are subject to the same rules and requirements as operators of motor-driven vessels of 15 horsepower or greater, including the requirement to possess a voter education card. The bill defines human-powered boats and vessels as all boats and vessels that are human-propelled and includes, but is not limited to, canoes, kayaks, rafts, and stand-up paddleboards. The bill also eliminates an exemption to the voter education card requirement for persons born before January 1st, 1955. Thank you.
Any questions of the staff? Seeing none, are there, Cassie, are there any amendments or substitutes that have been uploaded into the EBB that could change this bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is one amendment in the EBB by Representative Lovick, and that is Amendment JONC 208. That amendment removes the requirement that an operator of a human-powered voter vessel be at least 12 years old. It also modifies the voter education card requirement for operators of human-powered boats and vessels by allowing persons under 12 years old to operate a human-powered voter vessel without a voter education card if that person is accompanied by and under the direct supervision of a person 16 years of age or older who has a voter education card.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions on that? I guess there's no questions. Thank you so very much for being very clear. So with that, I will make an announcement about this public hearing so that everyone is, we're all operating under the same rules. So each person wishing to testify will have at least initially 3 minutes to speak. As the first set of panelists are called upon to provide testimony, Vice Chair Representative Dave Paul will also call the name of the persons on deck to testify so that staff may bring them in as panelists. We may have questions of each of the panels, and so if staff would keep them in participant mode until we're ready for the next panel of testimonies, I'll really appreciate that. When the Vice Chair calls upon you to provide testimony, the following will occur. Staff will transition your Zoom connection from attendee to participant status, and during this time, your connection will indicate that you are rejoining the meeting. And you may experience a slight audio disruption for a few seconds, so please be patient. After staff transitions you to your Zoom connection or transitions your Zoom connection, please turn on your audio and video. That gives us a cue as to that you are ready to testify. When you start, clearly state your name and organization or the city for the official record. So to recap, Representative Paul will call upon you to speak. So please start to speak when you hear your name, the second time, obviously. And then as the 3-minute timer ticks down, I will try to give you cues. If you're in gallery mode, you might be able to see a cue such as this, 30 seconds left or 15 seconds left, and your time is up. And I'll try to also interrupt you so that if you're going, if you keep going, then I'll ask you to please finish your sentence and then you'll move on. If we run out of time, because we do have a hard stop where we just turn everything off, I will, especially if there is repeat of comments, please feel free to say ditto, I agree with whomever spoke before. And then please be sure to give us new information that might help us in deciding what to do with this bill, whether we amend it or move it. And if I may also, because I've had so many requests for media and individuals emailing us, both Representative Levick and me, I wanted to state that the intent of this bill is to make our waters safe or safer, because each water-related death is tragic for the victim as well as their families and the community at large. Because of the cold temperatures of our bodies of water in Washington state, even the strongest swimmers can drown. I had previously approached it from the point of mandating the use of life jackets. Representative Levick, through this bill, decided to approach it from education of all boaters, including non-motorized modes such as kayaks. So this is definitely a hearing. I am encouraged that so many people signed in to voice their positions and willing to speak. So what I would like to hear from those most familiar with the water activities is what other suggestions you might have to improve safety on and in our waters. So thank you very much. With that, would Vice Chair Paul call up the panels of people to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Representative Levick going to?
Oh, yes.
Yes, he is here, waiting. Feel like I'm swimming.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair Ryu, Ranking Member Banky, members of the committee, good morning. I'm John Levick. I represent the 44th District, and thank you for hearing House Bill 1018. And I have to tell you that Cassie explained the bill so well. I had a lot of things that I was going to say, but it would be repeating what she said. So what I will say is this, is that Washington State is 5th in the nation in boating-related fatalities. The only states higher than Washington are Florida, Texas, California, and Alabama. Half of the fatalities in 2019 were on paddlecraft. As we increased in popularity of paddleboard, we know that people will be out particularly after being locked up for so long. And I think this is a good approach to what we want to do. I agree with you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased that so many people are engaged in the conversation. And what I'm hoping for is that the House Bill 1018 will increase safety by including human-powered vessels and requiring boater education standards. Would welcome any questions and would encourage us to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Levick. Any questions of the prime sponsor? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the testimonies of the...
Madam Chair, we have one.
Yep.
Representative Sutherland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't imagine how difficult it is to keep an eye on all these people and raising their hands and all that. Mr. Levitt, good seeing you again.
See you.
You mentioned we were number 5, I believe it was, in the nation. Do you have
Right.
actual numbers on that? How many people in Washington are dying in boating accidents?
I think last year, good question, Representative Sutherland, and I have some specific numbers, and I'd have to dig through. I'll get them before I get off the call. But I believe in 2019 there were 13, and then between 2015 and 2019 there were over 100.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And when that information, I believe there is a lot more information that we can share with all the committee members before we move this bill. So that would be very much appreciated. With that, I now have the panelist list in the right place, so I can keep an eye on that too. So thank you very much for that reminder. Representative Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, we'll have up Tom Hayward, and on the on-deck circle will be Amy Brackenberry.
And if both of them could be on deck so that, and kept in the panelist mode, so that if we have questions of them, we can ask them both. Go ahead, please, if you're ready. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good afternoon here. My name is Tom Hayward. I am the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer at the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators. We are based here in beautiful but wintry Lexington, Kentucky. We are, just in a quick synopsis elevator speech of what we do, every state has a lead recreational boating authority. For instance, in Washington, it's the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission. The Boating Programs Division is our agency member, and each state has a designated boating authority. We are the associations of the 50 states and 6 territorial boating authorities, and we do our best to communicate and develop policy as a collective body and communicate back and forth between the Office of Boating Safety at the U.S. Coast Guard and between the states. So we act as much as we can as not only an intermediary, but a policy voice for the states and territories to the federal government. We are also the designated standard setting authority by the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI. Taking after both state and federal governments, we use a lot of acronyms, but ANSI has designated NASBLA as the SDO, or Standards Developer Organization, for boating safety education in North America. We approve boating safety course content according to our standards, which are developed through a consensus body called our National Education Standards Panel, which is an independent body made up of representatives of state, federal, private, and members of the public who have a voice in shaping the standards for boater education. Those have existed in one way or another since 1998. Prior to 2014, they were an arm of our Education and Outreach Policy Committee. In 2014, our executive board created the Education Standards Panel so that the standards themselves would come under an independent process. We are advocating for this position based on a number of statistics. There were actually 53 boating fatalities in the state of Washington last year, and 24 of those were from paddlecraft. I will wrap up quickly because I have 15 seconds. I love your signs. Thank you. And if you have any specific questions, I have other statistics that can help break down any questions you may have. But our main point is that education is never harmful, and that according to the National Education Boating Survey from the U.S. Coast Guard Office of Boating Safety, people who have taken a boating education course are 70% less likely to have an accident, incident, or fatality. Thank you.
Go ahead, Amy.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Amy Brackenberry, and I'm here today representing a company called Calcami Enterprises. Calcami is an online outdoor recreation provider. We provide online education for hunter safety, snowmobile and ATV, concealed carry and handgun safety, boater education, paddle sports education, and in fact, we have more than 360 online outdoor education courses available. And our platform connects millions of people to the outdoors every year in all 50 states and all but one of the Canadian provinces in multiple languages. So we also work with school districts across North America to develop courses for outdoor enthusiasts. We support House Bill 1018 to require human-powered vessel operators to have some degree of knowledge before getting out onto the water. You heard some of the statistics about where we rank nationally and some of our fatality numbers. Just in June of last year, a Spokane Valley man died, drowned trying to save his family after their kayak capsized. A 10-year-old boy died in June while kayaking on the Skagit River. 6-year-old one man died while kayaking on the Columbia River. There are a number of stories like that. And in August, King County saw twice the number of drownings as usual. I think due to pools and other water recreation spaces being closed because of COVID, more people are going to open waters, and without proper equipment and education, accidents and fatalities are spiking. And as you heard, as paddle sports continue to grow in popularity, this brings more potentially inexperienced users out onto the waters. Under this proposed bill, human-powered vessel operators would be required to get a boater education card. There may be some way to address concerns about experienced users having to go through the whole boater education program. I think there are test out capabilities for experienced users and maybe ways to scale back to require only paddleboard training for, or paddle sports training for human-powered operators. So while I think there's some flexibility, I think ultimately if the goal is to provide as many opportunities as possible for people to recreate safely in our waters, now seems like the right time for this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions about our organization and what we do or provide any more statistics. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. We do have questions from the members. If the panelists would stay where they are. In the meantime, Representative Paul, would you please call up the next set of 3 testimonies?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll call up Scott Holy, Maxim Lowry, and Thomas O'Keefe next.
Thank you. Representative Corey has a question of the first panel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully you can hear me. My internet's being a little glitchy this morning. I have 2 questions, one for Tom, one for Amy. And I will preface all this with, well, you probably can't see it, but I am a card-carrying Washington State boater card member as someone who operates a 24-foot boat often on the Columbia River. To that end, I guess my question is, of the injuries related to paddle sports, do we know if any of them were alcohol related? Was it, simply just freak accidents, or was there negligence involved? That's my first question for Tom. And then Amy, for you, for the company you're representing, are they charging for this education, or is this a nonprofit venture? And I apologize if you mentioned that at the beginning, because like I said, it's been cutting in and out on me.
Okay, I'll take this first. All I have right now, and anybody, you can find these numbers on the U.S. Coast Guard boating safety website, which is uscgboating.org. For instance, Washington had 53 fatalities, 26 of which were paddlecraft, which includes kayaks, canoes, SUPs, and open rowboats. Let me see if I've got forgive me. I have information from the 13th Coast Guard District, which includes Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. Obviously, Washington and Oregon are the vast majority of those statistics. I know that search and rescue, let's see, in terms of distress calls, were 52% of distress calls were related in that district. Again, I don't have specific Washington numbers, I apologize. 52% were specifically regarding paddlecraft, and 1/4 of those calls were for vessels found adrift, which were just empty vessels. A lot of that, I get information from our recreational boating safety specialist in the 13th Coast Guard District. And he said a lot of them are just people are not securing their boats, whether it falls off a larger boat, it's a kayak, for instance, whether it's a canoe that's being towed and just, gets disconnected from the tow craft somehow. But there are a lot of empty paddlecraft that are found, and that, could certainly be a focus of any education program. Those are the statistics I do have. You can also find some Washington State specific stats, not only on education and education certificates already issued, but on accident and fatality statistics on our website, which is NASBLA, NASBLA.org. And I'm going to show my ignorance here, but if you go to our homepage and scroll down, you'll see a tab that says resources. And if you click on boating safety dashboards, there will be a lot of visualized statistical data that you can pull up, not only nationally, but state by state. I hope that's helpful.
Great, thank you so very much.
Representative, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to answer his other question. First, I want to say that the U.S. Coast Guard information does actually break down by state how fatalities, how the person died, whether it was due to operator inattention or alcohol. I think alcohol remains the single biggest contributing factor, but operator inattention or inexperience is right up there, number 2 and number 3. To answer your question about the company that I represent, the courses that Calcami operates across the country range in price between $20 and $50, depending on the interactivity of the particular program. Some of them are very interactive and some of them are just traditional online education. But I will say free courses for online education do exist. So the company I represent doesn't do it for free, but there are free options out there. So if this became a mandate, there would be free courses available for individuals to take the course and then get their card.
And
Representative,
yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Representative Corey, I do just want to say that our logo should be somewhere on your card, since you're a card carrying member, stating that the content was approved by NASBLA.
And would you remind us again, Amy, how much those cards cost? And it's one time per lifetime.
Correct. The card is $10. The fee for the state provided voter education card.
Thank you. So so we do have 4 more representatives that have questions, and we do need to move on to the next panel after that. So Representative Jacobson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My cost question was answered. This is for Mr. Hayward. Thank you, Amy, for answering that. This is for Mr. Hayward. Do we have any evidence that states that have enacted this have had drops in their fatalities? Have other states done this? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. No state has mandated education for paddlecraft. So you would be the pioneer. There have been states that, for instance, like Washington, initiated a quick phase-in for boater education on motorcraft. And you've seen some of those fatalities decline. Again, it depends. This past year, we don't have 2020 numbers yet. We probably will not have those official numbers from the U.S. Coast Guard until the fall. It takes them a while for them to get them in, get them collated, get them all verified, et cetera, from every state. And that is a report that is published called Performance Report Part 2 that every state sends to the Coast Guard. There are other initiatives that some states have taken. For instance, Ohio and Oregon require paddlecraft to be registered to get a registration number, for instance, on the hull that other states, for instance, Washington, do not. With the pandemic in 2020, we do expect, and we have seen just anecdotally from all of our state agency members, a large increase in recreational boating traffic and interest in recreational boating, period, because of the elimination of other recreational options during the pandemic. And honestly, becoming a paddlecraft owner is one of the least expensive options to get out on the water. And that's great. We want people to experience boating and nature in all its wonder, but we'd like them to do it safely.
Excellent. Thank you. Representative Chase.
Yes, Tom, is there a correlation, like we're number 5 in the United States of boating deaths? Is there a correlation between the amount of coastline and inland shores, lakes, and of course, water temperature? I think, if someone gets blown out into the middle of the lake, they may not make it back. But is there a correlation between that, do you think?
As far as the amount of coastline, I will say that my home state of Michigan had lower fatalities and has more coastline than Washington, for instance, and also has cold water. There are some of the northeastern states that have tried to mitigate this differently, and they now have what's called a cold weather life jacket requirement that I believe it's from September to April. You must wear a life jacket if you are on a craft that is less than 24 feet. So, they're trying to attack it from that angle. And again, these are citing 13th Coast Guard District numbers. I believe it's, more than 60% of the fatalities in that region, in the 4-state region, had no life jacket on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Do they happen mostly during the summer, the recreation periods, or is it pretty much?
Yeah, I don't have a quarterly or monthly breakdown on that. I can try to get it for you if you would like.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I suspect that we'll be doing a lot more work on this, so I hope you will be available later, Tom. Representative Rule.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered if either of you have any specific information as to what type of waters we're looking at that have the majority of these fatalities. I mean, are we looking at rivers or ocean or lakes, or, are there any sort of trends that we can see that are more clear than just a general, or even particular locations in Washington State that have a higher rate than others?
I don't have a specific breakdown on that, other than, again, the numbers from the 13th Coast Guard District, that 78% of the fatalities were on sole state waters. So those are waters that are not under joint federal or strictly federal jurisdiction. So it sounds like, to me, they're more inland and more on waterways that are specifically controlled by state officials.
Excellent. Thank you. I think with that, we can move on to the rest of the testimony. So we have 2 that are available to testify, and they will get 3 minutes each. Representative Paul, would you please call up the next set of three, and from them on the second set, they will each get 2 minutes. So please rework your testimonies to make them a little shorter, and please don't repeat. Try not to repeat what everyone else said, but definitely new information and proactive steps we could take to improve safety. Representative Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the on-deck circle will be Doug Levy, Brent Roth, and Owen Rowe.
Whoever's ready, please go ahead.
Chair Ryu and members of the committee, my name is Scott Hawley and I'm the president and co-owner of Eddyline Kayaks. We're a management-owned Washington-based kayak manufacturer. Eddyline is opposed to HB 1018. On this historic day, I would be remiss if I did not express on behalf of our team our sincere gratitude to all of the elected representatives and their staff who are serving the people of our state to ensure a functioning democracy. We thank you sincerely for your service. For the past 50 years, Eddyline has manufactured high-quality flatwater kayaks that are sold through qualified specialty retailers throughout North America. We adhere to strict product safety measures in the design and production of our products. At Eddyline, our purpose is to build quality craft that inspire people to safely and equitably enjoy access to clean and healthy waterways. Our entry-level boats are designed with the same safety features as our flagship touring products, including dual seal bulkheads for buoyancy, reinforced coaming, and generous high-quality deck lines to assist in reentry. I am here today on behalf of Eddyline, but I'm also here on behalf of my 3 young children, ages 12 and under, each a budding paddler in their own right. As a kayak maker, it is my responsibility to design and build a product that puts safety at the front. However, as a father, it's my responsibility that my children know how to use and operate that in a proper and safe manner. We share the concerns that will be presented by other individuals giving testimony here. Human-powered vessels have unique educational requirements. Motor-driven boats pose dangers to non-operators that human-powered craft do not. Requiring participants to potentially pay and sit for an exam on an internet-connected computer and then pay for a card would put an outsized burden on participation among lower income users, as has been suggested. Representative Ryu, you asked specifically for positive safety recommendations, so I would like to provide a few of those that Eddyline is happy to be a part of. First and foremost, Eddyline will show up to and attend any paddle sport safety related conversation that's happening within the state, so please keep us on your distribution list. We do support mandatory PFD rules for recreational kayaks. It's a broad industry, although it is human-powered craft. Each one has very different safety requirements, so I don't want to speak to anything beyond the flatwater recreational boats. But we do support PFD rules. We also support mandatory on-product safety literature and minimum design safety thresholds. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the committee today.
That was perfect. Thank you. Next.
Yeah, so Chair Ryu, Ranking Member Bank.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Chair Ryu, Ranking Member Banky, and members of the committee, my name is Thomas O'Keefe. I'm the Pacific Northwest Stewardship Director for American Whitewater. American Whitewater is opposed to HB 1018. We're a national nonprofit organization founded in 1954. Our mission is to protect and restore America's whitewater rivers and to enhance opportunities to enjoy them safely. So safety has been an essential component of our mission. I just want to say I appreciate the attention the legislature and your committee has focused on boating safety. This is an important discussion, so I want to acknowledge that, and I really appreciate that you're taking the time to have this discussion. And Washington State has been at the forefront of these discussions nationally through the great work of the Washington State Drowning Prevention Network and the Washington State Parks boating program. When you look at the statistics that have been cited that are provided by the Coast Guard of drowning victims in boating accidents, 86% were not wearing a personal flotation device. And in 23% of those fatalities, alcohol was a contributing factor. So I think whatever solution we come up with, we really need to focus on that, because that is the place where we can make the biggest impact. I think we need to focus on encouraging increased adoption and use of personal flotation devices. We could more actively deploy the Wear It campaign of the National Safe Boating Council. That's not as widely adopted in Washington State as it is in some other states. The Life Jacket Loaner program that was suspended in 2020 needs to be immediately reinstated. So that's important and critical. I'll just highlight a couple of concerns with the bill as drafted. One is a state mandated education program is inconsistent with how human-powered recreational activities are regulated in the state. So I think about mountain biking, backcountry skiing, rock climbing, even hiking. All these activities have risks. That's different from motorboating, driving a car, using a modern firearm that, where you have a greater propensity of injuring others. And, it's more than just personal safety. Thank you. I'll take a look at the amendment from Representative Lovick. We did have concerns that this would eliminate opportunities for those under 12 years of age to paddle their own kayak. So I'll take a look at that amendment as it relates to that concern we had. The legislation does not acknowledge the unique educational requirements of human-powered vessels, so that's something that needs to be distinguished. And I'll just close by saying, if you look at the fatality data and drowning, 10 to 20% of the incidents were boating accidents, but many of them, the majority were inner tubes, air mattresses, sailboards, swimming. And so I want to make sure that we're looking at that broader issue and also considering the equity concerns associated with this legislation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Great, thank you. The last of this panel, please.
Madam Chair, the last person is not online.
Thank you. So for this panel, Representative Benke has a question.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And this is for Scott Hawley, I believe, is that correct, at Eddy Line? First off, thanks for coming today and appreciate your testimony. Thanks for being an in-state manufacturer. Could you expand on what current safety efforts you guys are working on in your factory and manufacturing into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. We have made the conscious decision that the safety, and I apologize, there's a train going by at the moment. We've made the conscious decision that safety is going to be at the forefront of our design efforts. As I mentioned, our entry-level 10-foot boats have all the same safety features that our flagship touring kayaks have. We make sure that in all of our product imagery, we have appropriate cold weather immersion as well as PFD wearing, PFD usage. And then the channel we sell through is, of course, very critical. We sell through specialty retailers who are equipped to work directly with the customer with understanding that purchasing a kayak is simply the beginning of your journey towards using it in a safe and approved manner. So we work with a lot of retailers who have dedicated safety courses that are specific to whether you want to be paddling near shore in a lake, paddling on whitewater like what Tom's Dr. Acutes group does, or going island to island within the Sound. We're also, for us, it's a journey as well. We're continuing to look at product safety information, and we think that there's a continued opportunity for introducing new standards of care there, as well as product information regarding, we do have whole identification numbers. I think that a previous panelist misspoke. All kayaks are required to have whole identification numbers. And we collect warranty registration information, so we have user information. We're looking to expand that and find other ways to cooperate there as well.
Thank you, Scott. We have less than 30 minutes left, and so we are eating the lunch of everyone else. Representative Taylor, did you have a very brief question?
Madam Chair, this is Doug Levy. I'm here to testify. I believe my name had been called, but whenever you're ready.
Yes. Representative Taylor, did you have a question of the previous testifiers?
Yes, if you are, Mr. Hawley, thank you. I hear in terms of your support for your particular clients and customers, how do you address the boater education of the folks who buy their boats from Target or, you know, Big Five Sporting Goods? How do they get the same level of attention and care that you provide your clients?
That's a great question. I won't speak to what other manufacturers do, but I will say that we have chosen not to sell through big box channels for a number of reasons, including the hands-on instruction and care and direction that is provided by specialty retailers.
Thank you so very much. So Representative Paul, would you please call up the next panel after this so that they can be on deck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on headed to the on-deck circle is John Edwards, David Habelwitz, and Lucas Battanen.
Thank you. So Doug, go ahead and start your testimony, and you get 2 whole minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Doug Levy. I'm here this morning on behalf of the Recreational Boating Association of Washington. And I think out of respect for Representative Lovick and a lifetime of doing a lot of public safety work across the spectrum, we are signed in other on this bill. We do have concerns about what happens when there's an effort to slap a few words into statute over a few years. That's the case with the voter education card statute, which our organization led the way on over a 3-year period. There's some terminology here and some inconsistencies. Remember that under 15 horsepower is not required to get a voter education card. So we might be setting up a dynamic where the dinghy is not required to get a voter education card. The 13-year-old and the kayak is. There's some things that conflict there. We're not sure you're adequately covering things like sailboats and racing shells. There's a 60-day waiting period that was designed for boaters. That may not be consistent. The courses are probably going to need to be very different. So getting to the best way to ensure safety, one of the things that's happened as State Parks has farmed this out to a paddleboard advisory council is a lot of the feedback has been that a mandatory PFD or personal flotation device approach may be a lot better and a lot more directly effective. There's also a free class put on by NASBLA that gives one certification that wouldn't require this. I think if you do go through with this bill, we would suggest that you put stakeholders together in a room and look at how all these things conflict, that you maybe look at a direct PFD approach, and that you take a thoughtful approach to how best to do this and how best to save lives. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, perfect. On the nose. Thank you. Next person, please.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Owen Rowe with Washington State Parks. We signed another on this legislation as well. The Parks and Recreation Commission did not bring this forward. We're here to listen to the testimony. We appreciate the interest in the recreational boating program from the prime sponsor and Chair Ryu. Since it was, like Doug Levy mentioned, the boating safety education program was a result of a robust stakeholder effort that took several years to develop. These are not easy laws to promulgate. The program is similar to program in other states in that it certifies operators of motorized vessels. Washington State certified 400,000 individuals since the program was created. Last year, 35,000 people. And in addition to the required test and certification for motorized vessels, we work to educate all recreational boaters about the importance of wearing life vests and following the laws and best practices to keep them safe on the water. And we do have nationally approved curriculum and a test on our website right now, and it's available for free. We just don't certify those individuals. I think it's worth noting it's just come up before. No other state currently mandates education for paddle sport users. Want to clean up some inconsistencies around the accident reporting that's been bandied about. Over the past 10 years, reportable fatalities from human-powered vessels have averaged about 11 per year. just a little over half of what we experienced between motorized and non-motorized. So we're at about 22 fatalities per year. That's over the last 10 years. In addition, that time period, the state population increased by over 1 million people, 15%. Happy to work with the prime sponsor and stakeholders on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much. I do hear the need for at least one work group. So I hope the prime sponsor as well as interested parties on this committee, members of this committee would work together with everyone that's been suggested. Was there one more person? David, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is
David.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is David Hobowitz. I live in Bothell. I grew up in Florida. I've been paddling since I was 10. I was a certified lifeguard instructor, and in Boy Scouts, I taught paddling safety. At the University of Florida, I handled waterfront safety for our sailboard and canoe rentals. I've been an avid whitewater and sea kayaker for 30 years, and I'm trained in swiftwater rescue. While your heart is in the right place, this bill won't address the issue. I oppose HB 1018. The organized paddling community already does a fantastic job at safety education. Whitewater paddlers know they're far more likely to get killed driving to the river than paddling it. The irony is that this bill excludes people who are foolish enough to take air mattresses and inner tubes on whitewater rivers. You also exclude motors under 15 horsepower. So if I toss a trolling motor in my kayak, I won't need to buy a permit. This bill excludes sailboards but includes paddleboards. They're the same thing. This bill is like requiring permits for kids to ride skateboards and bicycles, permits to go backcountry skiing or rock climbing. Those activities are no less dangerous. Finally, this is a regressive tax that doesn't serve any true benefit to the people. It just creates another barrier of entry that discriminates against the poor who can't afford luxury activities. Not every problem is solved by making a law. This is an education problem, not a compliance problem. Making ignorance illegal won't change that. I worked with college students. Washington State Parks already partners with American Canoe Association for paddler education programs. I'll submit a written statement. Please talk to us. American Whitewater, ACA, North Sound Sea Kayak Association, Washington Recreation River Runners. Those are some suggestions I have.
Thank you very much. Representative Paul, I skipped over someone. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brent Roth, it's his turn now.
Hello, my name is Brent Roth. I'd like to thank everybody here today for hearing my statement. I am the ACA Washington State Director. The ACA is a nonprofit organization that specializes in the safety and education for paddle sports. I am a swiftwater instructor as well as on the ACA Swiftwater Committee and a rafting instructor, and on the committee as well that develops curriculum for safety and education. As a retired Navy chief, I understand the responsibility of safety of others and the difficulty it takes to change culture. And that's some of what we're talking about here. One of the photos that was brought up by Owen Rowe I thought was interesting. It showed a picture of everybody on the side of Lake Chelan. In the brief moment that picture was up, I had a hard time finding a PFD in that huge group of people. So in the same photo, I saw a bunch of watercraft that would be excluded from the way this bill is written. So the way the bill is written, it lumps everything together in the definition of the word vessel. And the ACA has worked very hard in separating and recognizing that paddle sports is different in discipline, and not only in the discipline, but the environment that the craft is used in is specifically different. And then we work hard to write curriculum for those environments. So that would be one way that I'd want to like to see this bill change, is target education by discipline, as well as targeting this education at the point of sale. So there's sales went up insurmountably last year when people were heading out to do water sports outside of a paid recreation for education, but they were able to go to the big box stores instead of purchasing from local vendors that would provide some education to them. So those are two major issues that I'd like to be considered as I do not promote the bill as written.
Great, thank you very much. Representative Taylor has a question of either this or previous people that I skipped over and didn't give you a chance to ask questions of. Go ahead, please.
I have a basic question. I'm a person who goes whitewater rafting every year. And then this year I went floating on the river for the first time. And I did observe when I was on the Wenatchee that there were folks who were on air mattresses. So when one of the speakers spoke about air mattresses and water safety and what have you, and just, skirting around this particular rule, where do the inner tubes fall into the definition of a watercraft, and how would it fall into this legislation?
If someone can very briefly explain, that'd be wonderful. Okay, go ahead, Brent.
If you look in the definitions of the term vessel, that's in the beginning part of the bill, it specifically excludes inner tubes and other floatables like you described that you see. So this would do nothing for the number of deaths that happen on those.
Yeah, a lot more work to be done. Representative Paul, would you please call up the next people, and then also the next panel that should be ready to testify.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're going to hear from John, Edward, and Lucas. And then on the on-deck circle is Mark Zoller, Jim Virgin, and Rob Sendek.
Great, thank you. John, go ahead, please.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. I'm a whitewater kayaker. I've been a kayaker for 25 years. I learned when I was in university in the UK. If I'd have been, and as far as I can tell, the cost of this would actually be the $10 for the card and the $25 for taking the approved course. If I'd have been hit with that $35 up front, I might never have started kayaking. And now it's enough of a part of my life that I live in white salmon because of the kayaking here. I'm also merchant mariner, and it strikes me that every time that and my 3-year-old son, so I'm glad that you have the amendment for the age. My 3-year-old son kayaks as well. And it strikes me that every time that I'm down on the Columbia teaching him on what is essentially flat water, there's SUPs and flat water kayaks that have been obviously bought from Target or Walmart that are being paddled by people without PFDs. I don't really see how you can enforce this, because it would be easy to enforce. You've got to wear a PFD because law enforcement can see that somebody is not wearing a PFD. If you're going to ask the thousands of kayakers in Washington State to go through this process, and then you're going to somehow ask them every time they get off the river, do you have this card? That seems really unenforceable. And then also just quickly, somebody stated about registering boats in Oregon. There's actually a length limit on that, so you don't have to register anything under 9 feet. That's it. I'm done. Thanks.
Oh, great. Thank you. Next person, please.
Madam Chair, that's Lucas.
Go ahead, Lucas. Would you unmute yourself?
Hi, I will read my prepared statement loudly because I'm in a vehicle, and then I will ramble if time is allowed. My name's Lucas, and I'm an avid paddler, sailor, and water sports enthusiast. I'm vehemently opposed to imposing additional regulations on paddlecraft operators in this state. House Bill 1018 diminishes my faith in our state government's ability to do right by its residents. Current law requires a life jacket, whistle, and 360-degree white light when paddling at night. These are reasonable things to require for safe operation of a paddlecraft. Putting in place a requirement to obtain a boater's education card and pay a fee will not make our waterways a safer place. It will only inhibit and discourage citizens from engaging in a healthy activity that lots of us love. We call America the land of the free. This bill will significantly impose on the freedoms we all enjoy as Americans. I enjoy paddling with my safety gear, but no permit, no ID, no reasons to speak with law enforcement. I read the bill, and to my understanding, this would essentially make us a stop and ID paddlecraft state. I rue the day that I legally have to stop paddling to provide my identification and boater safety card to law enforcement. Please do everything in your power to keep this bill from being signed into law. Keep our country as free as you can and give law-abiding citizens the liberty to go about their business. I agree with everything that was previously said from constituents opposing this bill. I think this is akin to mountain biking, skateboarding, other human-powered activities that we all enjoy. And I think regulators should stay out of this. I'm all about furthering education and making on-the-water time safer, but imposing a boater education card requirement is not the way to go about this. So please rethink this. Do everything you can to keep this from passing. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. Looks like Mark, you have your microphone open, so go ahead, please.
My name is Mark Zoller. I live in the southern edges of the state, close to the town of White Salmon, Washington, on the White Salmon River. Our family owns a whitewater rafting company called Zoller's Outdoor Odysseys. We've been in business for almost 50 years now.
Sorry, I think I unmuted you by mistake. So sorry. Go ahead and unmute, please. And you get your 2 minutes back.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Sorry
All right,
about
I'll start
that.
over. Very
Yes.
good. My name is Mark Zoller. I live in White Salmon, Washington, on the White Salmon River. Our family has owned a whitewater rafting company, and we've been in business for almost 50 years. We're in 3 generations of family operation. I myself have been guiding for 37 years on the White Salmon River, and we strongly support boater safety. It's a way of life for us, of course. The problem I have with this proposed legislation is that it fixes on such a small segment of our society where no one else is being fixated on. As mentioned before, how about skateboarders, mountain bikers? This is an individual sport, and we should be allowed the freedom to exercise that sport. However, we still need to look at where these deaths are coming from. And I haven't been able to hear from anyone how these deaths occurred. And if I cannot paddle my kayak without a card in my pocket, why can I float this very same river in an inner tube? This is incorrect. There's also overlapping laws. RCW 79A 6430 already requires me as a commercial outfitter to have a far higher level of training than anything this boater card will bring about. Therefore, why would I get a $10 boater card? And boaters don't carry things in their pockets when they're on the water. We don't carry driver's license. We don't carry wallets. So I'm opposed to this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so for those of you who are interested in furthering the safety, we will invite you to a work group and we'll work this out. So with that, next, please, Representative Paul.
Next, we're going to hear from Rob. And on the on-deck circle is Brian Miller, Christian Knight, and Don McKenzie.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, ranking member, my name is Rob Sendak, and I'm the Boating Programs Manager and the state's Boating Law Administrator, housed at State Parks. I just want to thank you all for your time, effort, and energy around recreational boating safety. Owen did most of our comments. I'm here to answer questions from any members of the committee. I do want to just mention 1 or 2 stats that were mentioned earlier in testimony. In 2020, there were 24 reportable recreational boating fatalities in the state. 13 of those were from human-powered watercraft. That number is actually down from 2019. In 2019, we had 28 reportable recreational boating fatalities. There was another question around alcohol involved. There were 4 fatalities in 2020 of the 24 where alcohol was involved. Another 1 or 2 still unknown. So just wanted to clear those stats up real quick. And I pause there. I thank you for your time. I'm here to answer any questions that I can.
Great. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Representative Jacobson has a brief question.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Sendak, when this bill was drafted, do you know if they took into account the interests of the tribal stakeholders, you know, for their cultural canoe journeys and stuff like that? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Representative Jacobson. I do not know if those stakeholders were reached out to by the prime sponsor.
All right. Thank you. Next testimony, please. Oh, Representative Chase had a question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was just curious, what would, if you were cited for this, what would the penalty be dollar-wise? Is that anticipated?
I do not believe that that was in the draft as written. I can tell you that for right now, mandatory boating card for a motorboat, if you're cited, it's $99.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions, and we will talk again, Rob. Thank you. Representative Paul, do we have any panelists left?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think Brian Miller is next.
Great. Go ahead, please, Brian.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I am Brian Miller from Pierce County. I have been a member of Fly Fishers International for over 30 years, but I'm here representing myself. I am opposed to House Bill 1018. I began taking the free accredited boatus.org boater education course when I heard about this bill, and immediately see that over 90% of the information taught in the course to pass the test for a boater education card is not relevant to human-powered craft. The parks website focuses users looking for an accredited course to the official boat ed course for Washington that costs $25 plus a $10 fee. I am a fisherman and will restrict most of my further comments to commonly used inflatable human-powered vessels that I have and are widely used for fishing. Float tubes, fishing rafts, and pontoon boats specifically designed for fishing have multiple air chambers for safety in the event of a puncture that will allow the angler to reach shore, but do not have floors so swim fins can be used for propulsion. They may also have oars. I personally always carry a signaling device, a flashlight, and I always wear a life jacket. Most rivers in the state on hot summer days have parades of inner tubes, air mattresses, small rafts, and flotation devices used by swimmers who will remain exempt in the bill. Most of these vessels have single air chambers that would lose all flotation in the event of a puncture, and many of the users that I see typically do not have PFDs or life jackets on. Many bring and consume alcohol during their float, and they appear to be exempted in Section 2, Subsection 1 from the safety education, while anglers, kayakers, canoeists, rowers with safer vessels must obtain the boater education card.
Thank you, Brian. We have a couple more testimonies, and we will be cutting them down to 1 minute each. And whatever else is left unsaid, would you please be sure to log back on and submit your written testimonies or reach out to us individually. Really appreciate it. Representative Paul.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think Don McKenzie's next, and then on the on-deck circle would be Rich Flagg and Lucas Battanen.
Yeah, hi. I'm Don McKenzie. This is my daughter, Sydney. What do you want to say, Sid?
I've been paddling my kayak since I was 4 years old, and I'm better than my big brother.
Yeah, so Sid loves her kayak. It's the first thing where she really could do better than her big brother. And I was really dismayed to see this bill would take away the right to paddle a kayak. from kids under 12. I don't know if that was the intent. It's certainly in the text of the version, and it really makes no sense. Second, if there really is a compelling public safety issue here, why the huge list of exemptions? Renters, new boat owners, out-of-staters, these are precisely the group.
Oh, sorry. 15 seconds, wrong card. Go ahead, please.
Why the huge list of exemptions? These people, these are the ones with the least familiarity with boating and the least familiarity with Washington state waters. It really makes no sense. I don't know if there's any other.
Thank you. Would you submit the rest of your testimony electronically, please? Thank you.
I think I've been skipped.
It really didn't seem like a minute.
It goes past. Representative Paul, who's next?
I think
Christian Knight is next.
Thank you so much, Representative Paul. Thank you so much, members of the committee. I've got 1 minute, so I'm going to be quick. I've got a few questions for you. How would this safety education bill tell me at which levels the hydraulic called Pat's Plunge on the Skycomish River is dangerous? How would this safety education program tell me where the log is on Ernie's Canyon? How would this safety education bill tell me at what flows the Robe Canyon section of the Stillaguamish is most safe and most fun to run? It can't. We already have a system in place for that. It's called each other, okay? We have forums and we have a culture of sharing information, mostly safety related, to keep each other safe, okay? We advise each other on gear, we scout with each other, and we warn each other about hazards that have popped up. A safety program is static and it is theoretical. The river is dynamic and it is very, very practical. This is the most unpractical solution to a safety issue. Please vote it down.
Thank you. Anyone else left on deck? Representative Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Rich Legg, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, and on deck would be Peter Schrappman.
Great. If everyone could stay in panel mode, and then Representative Taylor can ask the question after they're both done. Go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm Rich Legue. I'm 40 years. I've been paddling whitewater for 40 years, and I'm a former board member of the Willamette Kayak and Canoe Club down in Corvallis, Oregon, a long time ago, back in the 1980s. And so I've been paddling for a long time, and I wanted to say that I think that this bill should not include hard shell kayakers and whitewater canoeists. To do those sports, you have to learn how first. If you don't learn how, you're swimming at the first eddy line. So it doesn't make any sense for those people to have to go through this kind of education. People in inflatables are more of a problem, but the problem I've seen in terms of safety on rivers over this long period of time has to do with people pretty much on things like inner tubes and cheap rafts from Walmart. And I think this bill does not address those people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last testimony, please. Go ahead.
Hi there. Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Peter Schrappen, representing the Northwest Marine Trade Association. That's the state's $8 billion recreational boating industry. Our members represent the stand-up paddle boards through super yacht builders in our state and just about everything in between. As Doug Levy mentioned earlier and a lot of the previous speakers, we've championed mandatory boater education since the get-go 12 years ago. The Recreational Boating Association of Washington and Northwest Marine Trade Association are partners in boating safety, and as an industry and as a parent, there's not much more important than preventing fatalities on the water, so I commend Representative Lovick on his interest in boating safety. We believe safe boating is fun boating. I will mention we did sign in con on this bill. We'd love to stay with you connected, Madam Chair, and your colleagues to figure out the best way forward to address boating and paddling safety. Unfortunately, attaching this well-intentioned language onto the law on the books already does not feel like the right approach for us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Robert Brett, is he available to testify? Oh, sorry. Let me turn that off. Multitasking here. Representative Paul, is Robert the last person signed in?
I believe we have, did we already hear from Lucas Bantanen?
Yes, we did.
So Robert is the last individual, I believe.
As soon as Robert's on board, he can start speaking. In the meantime, oh, go ahead, Robert. You can speak now, Robert. Go ahead, please. We do have a hard stop where everything turns off at 11:50, so please be aware when we all disappear from your screens. Robert, go ahead, please. All right, looks like he's having technical problems. So Robert and anyone else that did not get to give your full testimony, please submit them. You have, I believe, another 22 hours and 14 minutes to submit them electronically online, or you can email them to me or the staff, and we'll make sure the committee members get them all. In the meantime, as you heard, there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and I am very glad that everyone's enthusiastic about increasing boater and other water safety, water activity safety. And so please look forward to invitations, especially if you have something positive and constructive to offer. And I'm sure Representative Lovick and I, as well as other members of this committee, would be very happy to make sure that we do it right the first time out of this committee. So with that, I believe, did I miss anything? Ranking Member Banky and Vice Chair, did I miss any other, anything else?
No, Madam Chair, we got your message on the caucus for Friday. Ours will be caucusing as well at 8 a.m.
Yes, great. Thank you so very much. I believe this was a very successful hearing, and I really appreciate the assistance of course, staff as well as Vice Chair Paul. You were very needed. As you could tell, I was struggling. So I hope you like this little low-tech tool that I devised, but if you have other suggestions, I am very open to your suggestions. With that, we will close the hearing on 10:18, and with no other agenda items for today's meeting, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.